Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about Pandemonium by Daryl Gregory. And I'm sure you've read books with demon possessions before, but I guarantee you've never read one quite like this. So, what is Pandemonium about? It started sometime in the 1950s, where demons would randomly possess people. The demons would typically take the form of an archetype. For example, there's one known as the painter, who, when the person gets possessed, they'll immediately start creating this diorama, a very particular diorama. And then there's another one who's known as like the captain, who's like the ultimate soldier. Anyway, the story follows Del Pierce, who, when he was a child, he was possessed by a demon called the Hellion. And through a series of circumstances, he was ultimately exorcised. But then now he's an adult. He was in a car accident, and suddenly the Hellion has returned with a vengeance. And so the book is basically Del out on a quest to find out more about what's happening to him, and to figure out how he got rid of the Hellion in the first place and how to get rid of it again. And it's a journey that takes him everywhere, from the medical to the religious to the scientific to the lunatic fringe, all over, investigating every possible avenue. And the kicker is, the Hellion isn't going to go without a fight this time. So, yeah. This is the third book I've read by Daryl Gregory. And this is the third one that just messed with my brain in all the best ways. And by the way, this is his debut novel, and it's rare to read authors come out of the gate with a book of this caliber. Like, it's just creative and strange and interesting in all the best ways. Like, if I could try to boil this book down to what it is in a nutshell, I would call it like a character-driven story that it focuses on so many different things. It incorporates elements of like mental health, superstitious claptrap, religion. It pays homage to like post-human classic sci-fi. There's even a little bit of comic book nostalgia thrown in here. Like, all sorts of crazy stuff is involved in this book. And the thing is, like, how it's all included. It's all included in a way that fits very well with the story. Like, it's there for a reason. It's there to underscore something, or to pinpoint something, or to lay the foundation for something that's going to come later. It's just chock full of so much different stuff. But like I said, it's largely a character-driven story. And for the most part, we follow Del Pierce and the degradation of his quality of life as the Hellion slowly takes more and more control, and more strange things happen. Now, this is one of those books that blends fantasy very well with horror, because there's nothing fun about what's happening with Del. It's scary, it's terrifying, it's horrible, and we see the way he just becomes more wretched as like his control slips. We see the toll it takes on his family, the mental, the emotional, and the literal physical cost of the Hellion possessing Del, what it's costing his family and the people around him. And even the strange mother Mariette, who he makes contact with in his quest to free himself from the Hellion, she seems to know a little bit too much about how these demon possessions work, and even their relationship, the way that the dynamic that they have is affected in just a strange way by this entire thing. Like, the whole book as a general, now that I think about it, and setting aside Del for a minute, like, it's just packed with all these oddball characters. Some of them are like cool to read, some of them are like okay, some of them are you definitely can tell Daryl Gregory is having a little bit of fun. Like, one of my favorites is when Del meets a demon who is known as Valise. And Valise is a demon, by the way, possessing the former science fiction writer known as Philip K. Dick. So yeah, I'll leave that there for you to have some fun with, basically. Like, even the demons themselves are interesting characters because they fill all like these Jungian archetypes. Yeah, so a very character driven book. And like I said, the book is largely, it's just this crazy blend of fantasy, horror, mystery, and it just goes in so many different directions. Like it does a good job of incorporating like this nerd culture nostalgia throughout it. With some of the different things, like we get lots of references to classic science fiction, as you could probably tell by the PKD shout out, in the most fun way. But aside from that, like we see Dell just explore so many different avenues trying to figure out how to get rid of the demon, because that's the cool thing about this story. Like, no one understands anything about these demon possessions. Like, demon possessions is just something that the masses took to calling this phenomenon. No one understands what it is, how it occurs, or all of that. So there's so many different varieties of thought. Like, setting aside the religious, there's the scientific, there's the psychiatric, there's the biological. There's so many different avenues. In one really hilarious case, we encounter like this post-human group, a post-human paramilitary group, who I'll leave that for you to find out. But it's just wild. What's the way that this phenomenon has essentially affected the world, and it's very much like something that's become ingrained in society. We see that pretty early on when a possession happens and everyone just kind of has to stand still and wait for it to kind of play itself out before life can move on. Things like that. And the events that happen over the course of this book, they just get wilder and wilder as it progresses. Like, we see Dell undergo everything from hypnosis to like to be willing to undergo like experimental neurosurgery, and it's just wild. And the thing is, like, it's just such a fun, in its own weird way. It's fun, it's action packed, and action in the sense that it never quite slow down. Like, there are moments that punch hard. There are moments where things happen that leave you confused and wondering. Like, the mystery is really ramped up and just has you hooked and engaged to find out what happens next. And it really escalates more and more towards the end. In just this really fascinating finale it's equal parts horrible, fantastical, and incredible. Honestly, I'm not sure what else I could say about this book. Like, it's without really going into spoilers. It's just such a, like I said, this is the third book I've read from Daryl Gregory, and this is the third time this guy's managed to like just blow my mind. Overall, I'll just call this like a relatively short, entertaining read. Not that it's that short, but it's pretty good, and it's like just cemented Daryl Gregory as a guy who I need to read everything this man's written. Like, he's writing some really good stuff. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Pandemonium. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.